All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for January 1st. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. Clayton, I got to let everyone know this is your third attempt at doing the intro for this episode. The
You didn't have to
audience
let everybody know.
has to know. They did have to know because we're starting a new year off, and we got to be honest with our audience, and they need to know that you fucked up the intro on two different occasions, and you didn't just fuck it up in front of me. You fucked it up in front of a crowd because today we have an all-star panel for our 2025 box office draft because we are doing a fantasy league. And so we are joined by, I'm going to go around the horn and introduce everyone. Of course, first of all, our VP of interns, the one and only Christoper, is here. Welcome, Christoper.
Thanks for having me.
From the direct.com and the Cinema Spending podcast, of course, our chief comic book correspondent, David Thompson, is here.
Thank you for having me. Survived the 25. We did it. We did it, boys. We're here.
We all did it. We survived, and also surviving was one of the biggest wannabe oh boys out there. He's been on this show several times. You know him, you love him. From the great city, town, province, area of New York known as Buffalo, we welcome Austin is back on the BO Boys. Welcome, Austin.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on.
So this is going to be great. So Clayton, this is an idea that several listeners have reached out to us about over the course of pretty much since we started the BO Boys. You got to do a fantasy league. You got to do a fantasy league. Of course, Clayton and I back pre-BO Boys, we did some box office fantasy leagues with our friends, but now it means something because we're doing it on air, Clayton. So Clayton, are you excited? Or I guess, of course you're excited. Just how excited are you to get in here and draft a box office 2025 team?
I'm very excited.
It's coming through. I mean, people's earbuds must be popping out of their ears from the excitement that Clayton is giving off right now. So, of course, here are the rules. We did a randomized draft order before we got on mic, and then we're going to snake that around. So basically, each of us will be drafting 7 movies. These movies have to come out between today, January 1st, and August 31st, 2025. We are ending the season on August 31st. So that'll be when the movies have to come out, and that'll be the time frame in which box office and points are accumulated. So just to remind if everyone on this league knows, but here are the ways in which you could gain points. Everyone drafts 7 teams, 7 movies. Movies gain points through only domestic box office. We are not using international box office. Every $5 million that a movie makes at the domestic box office gives you 1 point for that movie. And we're not rounding up. So if a movie ends its run with $34.3 million, you've gained 6 points from that box office. You will also get a bonus point, 1 point for every week that a movie finishes number 1 in its weekend box office. You get another bonus 3 points if a movie finishes first for 3 consecutive weeks. You will gain, and then what was the other one? Oh, you'll also gain bonus points if a movie opens at number 3 or lower and then eventually makes its way up to number 1 on an upcoming weekend. You'll get bonus points there. We have it written down somewhere. I don't have it in front of me. And also, I think you get 50 bonus points, we agreed, if your movie breaks the consecutive number 1 streak of Titanic. So if a movie hits 16 weeks straight at number 1 in our time frame in our season, you'll get 50 bonus points. Basically, that will guarantee a win for whoever drafts a movie that breaks Titanic's record. So, boys, does that all sound clear? Does everyone here understand and agree to the scoring system for this box office fantasy league? Anyone have any gripes that they want to state? Christoper, I know you already have a gripe about the randomizer because you're going to be drafting 5th. So state your gripe up top.
Well, I just think it's a little suspect that the intern is obviously the one who chooses last. That's all I have to say about that. I don't know how random this randomizer was.
It's as random gets. I promise you that this is the best randomizer, free randomizer on the internet. That is what I used. And so the draft order is as follows. Drafting first, randomly, he got the number 1 pick. David Thompson in the direct. Then number 2 will be Clayton. Number 3 will be myself, Pat. Number 4 will be Austin. And then number 5 will be Christoper. And then we reverse it for the next round. So then Christoper goes first and so on. And we reverse it and reverse it. We snake back and forth. Everyone knows what a snake draft means. When you say snake draft, it's very clear to everyone what that means. Clayton, do you have anything that you want to gripe about in terms of this fantasy league before we start drafting? Everyone has a chance before we start drafting. State your gripes.
I think I'll keep my gripes for after the draft. I'll complain throughout the whole ordeal. So I just want to save you guys from hearing it now.
Thank you for that, Clayton. You could send an email of your gripes, Clayton, to the boboyspodcast@gmail.com. Just send it there so we both could see your gripe, and I could delete it immediately. Austin, David, do you have any gripes before we start drafting, right? Or any big thoughts about this 2025 box office year? Are you guys excited to be drafting movies from this year?
I think I'm a little disappointed I can't draft some of the fall winter openings that maybe could have had some big box office promise. You're painting me in a bit of a corner here, but it makes it a little more fun because I had to really dig deep with my list of options. And I feel like once you get past a few rounds, it's like, I don't know, that's where I think this draft's going to be won, by the way. Like the top hitters, the biggest movies of this year, we might be able to kind of track a little bit. And that's kind of why I'm not loving actually on the other end of the spectrum, the first overall pick. I don't know, right? A few of these can maybe be number 1, but I do think like rounds 5 through 7 might be what wins, whoever wins at the end of the day, our fantasy league championship.
So that is, David thinks it's going to be one in the trenches. It's going to be one on the back end. And I love, David, that you're immediately starting off with a gripe as the person who got the number 1 pick.
Oh, yeah.
And yet you're griping. It shows that anyone can gripe, no matter what hand they're dealt. Austin, any gripes from you or any big picture thoughts about, remember, we're drafting January to the end of the summer. So, yeah, no fall, no Avatar. Zootopia 2 opens in November. That is not part of this draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big movies coming out post the summer, but this was the perfect year to do it because going through the list of everything and kind of making the list in my head, it's like this is the first year since pre-COVID where there is a full calendar. I mean, maybe there's 1 or 2 weekends here and there that are a little empty, but there's immediately, in January, there's a couple big movies. In February, there's a couple big movies. March, April, May, like going all the way to the end of the summer. There's no pandemic, hopefully. There's no strikes, hopefully. There's no VFX backups, hopefully. So this really does feel like the first year since 2019 where there is a full and complete release schedule of movies, which is really nice to see. And, maybe some of these movies are better than the others, but at least we have like a big list to choose from.
Speaking of the release dates, Pat, what do we do if something gets pushed that we select?
So one of the rules that I set out in our email thread was that you get one transaction during the season where you could drop a movie off your roster and pick up another movie from the free agent pool. So I think that's going to have to cover if a movie gets pushed, and that's going to have to factor into the draft. If you think that something's iffy, you're hearing out there from your sources that special effects aren't finished on this one, the studio is maybe thinking of putting into next year, you got to factor that into your draft. So that does make it a little riskier when you start drafting movies that are slated to come out further down the line. Your July, August releases are obviously more likely to get pushed than, say, Den of Thieves, Pantera, which comes out this Friday. That would be unlikely to get pushed at this point. And then last thing, we never discussed, we're not putting money into this. We're not going to, let's each put $1,000. But I do think bragging rights are going to be enough because when this is all over, we tally the winner up in early September. I guess the winner comes on and they get to maybe run an episode of the BO Boys. They get to be feted as the king of the box office. Do we feel like that is enough to be declared on this show?
Is a co-host spot potentially available if we win?
Here we go.
Here.
I was waiting. Who had 10 minutes and 43 seconds? The pool.
I do think everything's up for grabs here because we do
Okay.
have to make this as important as possible because we want the listeners engaged. We want them to be following, on social media, to be arguing in the streets about who's winning this. So, yeah, I think anything is possible. This may determine the future hosts of the BO Boys. Let's just say it right now.
Okay.
A strong showing, a dominant win here could tilt the balance of power of the BO Boys. So, yes, everything is on the line in this draft. Win this draft handily, win this league handily, and I think the BO Boys world is yours. That's what I'm saying right now. So it's all on the line. And with that said, David, you have the first pick in the 2025 Box Office Fantasy League draft. You're on the clock. Do you have a pick?
Yes. So before I get there, I got the email this morning and I was like, great, the first pick. No pressure, right? And I sat there and I'm looking at all these movies and it's like, I know we're only doing domestic, so I got to just think like, what's not going to get juiced too much by international. Can't let those international numbers in the back of my head from past like really influence me. And I came to a decision, but I didn't like it. I didn't want to root for that movie. And then, you know what? I really looked deep, looked inside, stared in the mirror for a minute and thought, what do I want to root for as the number one movie of 2024?
He's doing it.
We all know, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
Superman,
Yeah.
July 11th, 2025. That's my pick. James Gunn, David Corn Sweat. The trailer's already got 50 million views on YouTube. I'm fired up. I think it's going to be awesome. Will it be the number one movie? I don't know. But damn, do I want it to be. So let's go. Look up Superman. Let's do it.
Wow. So the first pick of the draft is Superman Legacy, coming out this July. This is unbelievable. Hetty's got the hat. This is why you gotta subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel, because if you're just listening, you're not looking at David revealing a Superman shirt and putting on a Superman hat as he drafts Superman. You gotta subscribe this year more than ever. Wow. That's huge. I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting that, but I'm glad that it happened. He drafted with his heart. Clayton, you are up now, and this means Superman is no longer on the table for you to draft as a second pick.
Well, David, I'd like to say that is a brave and bold pick, and on brand, which is the most important thing.
Right. I was going to say, who you guys talking to?
Yeah, come on, look at this guy. So for mine, I think I have to go with something that feels perennial. And so I'm going to go with July 2nd, Jurassic World Rebirth. Because I like that slot, and I think dinosaurs always rule. And with superheroes being where they are, no offense to Superman, I think that kids love dinosaurs. Everybody loves dinosaurs. I think this movie is going to make a solid showing at the domestic box office.
Wow. So Clayton went there. Clayton, had this been reversed, if David had picked Jurassic World first, which was, I thought, the most likely pick, would you have picked Superman as your second pick?
No, I wouldn't have.
I figured that you wouldn't have. And then that would have fell to me, and then I would have had to draft Superman. But that's not how it shaked out. I get this number 3 pick. Clear-headed, dinosaurs, Superman, off the table. I am going with, and I can't wait to see everyone's reaction here, I'm going with a Minecraft movie.
Oh, no way.
Damn.
I think that's bad. I think that's bad, Pat.
I'm going with a Minecraft movie.
Oh, I love it.
Guys, I think this is Super Mario Brothers.
No, I think
again.
this is Sonic before they reanimated him to what he looks like now. I think that's what this is.
Well,
Damn.
I was always for releasing the teeth cut of Sonic. So you saying that doesn't deter me at all. I think this Minecraft movie is going to be gigantic. just millions and millions and millions of people obsess over this, play this. I think Super Mario Brothers, the movie, is happening all over again, and this time it's called a Minecraft movie. So
I'm completely
April,
with you on that too, because I was going to choose that for my first round pick.
wow. So
Really?
I just blew up
Yeah.
Austin's world right there by drafting this Minecraft movie. I think this thing's going to go bananas. I think 350 million domestic is happening. And it's going to rule April. I cannot wait for this. The second these tickets go on sale, I am there rooting for my top draft pick. So now, Austin, Minecraft movies off the table. I just blew up your life. What do you do now at number 4?
I'm going to go with a really wild and potentially stupid pick.
Love it.
I'm going with the live action Lilo and Stitch movie.
Wow.
I love that pick. That's a
Yeah.
great pick.
Great pick. I don't think that's.
I'm
I think that's
in on
really
that
smart.
movie. Let's
It's
go.
coming out on Memorial Day weekend, and
Mhm.
like I know there's no music in this, which is probably going to be like what takes a couple million off. It's not going to do like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast kind of numbers, but man, dude, this thing was such a big movie for like people in their 20s, like who are now like older, who are starting to have kids now, and like I don't know, like if this thing can make like upper 200s, low 300s, like what the Little Mermaid movie did a couple years ago, that's bigger than like anything else on the list that I see right now, besides the one that you guys already picked. Like I think this thing could do
Wow.
275, 300 maybe. It's coming out on Memorial Day weekend, and it'll have its whole run wrapped up by the time the draft's over.
Mm-hmm. I love this pick. I think this is a great pick. I think all of us have made perfect picks so far, and now it falls on you to screw this up, Christoper. So you get. Here's the thing. You
Chris is in a good
griped.
spot, I think.
It's a good spot. This man gets to pick
I
2
know.
in a row now. So
Yeah.
with the 5th and 6th picks in the draft, it's VP of Interns Christoper, who now knows that co-hosting is potentially on the line if you win this handily. So, Christoper, what are your picks?
So first, I'm gonna stick with the live action remake train. Disney's had its time to shine, and now I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna go to Universal and go with How to Train Your Dragon live action remake.
Let's
June
go.
13th. I watched that teaser trailer, hit me in my feels. I think that's I'm the perfect like audience to go for. I grew up with these movies. It's a nostalgia bait play through and through, but I'm here for it. I think this has the potential to be $1 billion baby. And yeah, so I'm gonna go with the live action How to Train Your Dragon for my first pick.
Wow. That's an incredible pick. That is a pick that honestly, that's the one I was thinking about at number 3. You know, How to Train Your Dragon could be that high. Do we think though there's any possible Mufasa residue on this movie? Obviously, it's not Disney, but sort of that whole realistic looking animation style. Do we think that people could say, I hated seeing these lions, now I'm going to hate seeing these dragons, or that's not going to, that residue won't affect this movie?
I mean, because there's also humans there too,
Mhm.
and I think this is a beloved franchise. Not a follow up to a movie that like obviously made a bunch of money but wasn't exactly well received. And people have been waiting for it. I think this has potential to be really big.
Yeah, it's not a prequel. You know, it is a remake of the film that people love, which Mufasa was
Mhm.
not. So I think that's a smart pick, Christoper.
All right.
It's a
Well, guess
bold
what,
pick, I think.
Christopher?
I like it, though. I love it.
pick.
I'm so excited for that movie. Like I'm a huge fan of the franchise. Like I'm
See?
rooting
Yeah.
for it. I think so far I don't want to like show my cards a little bit here, but we have picked 2 movies so far that do have head-to-head competition release dates, I will say, which is pretty interesting. I think might factor into, especially that opening weekend, right? You know, we get like extra points for that too. Something to factor in, at least over here on my end with that July 11th pick.
Right, because remember, you get points for finishing number 1. Those bonus points could come in big, so you got to look at release date. You got to look at runways. So that all factors in. With that in mind, Christoper, it's time to kick off the second round. 6th pick in the draft. It's on you again.
I think for this one, I'm gonna back. I know they've had a few rough years, but I'm gonna take Thunderbolts on May 2nd,
Ooh.
Marvel's prime spot. They're finally back where they belong. I know they've had a tough time, but I think they're out to prove something this year. They're gonna make sure all their movies work. It has basically all of May until Memorial Day weekend to itself. There's nothing other big coming out other than like the new Final Destination movie, and that this is Marvel's like sweet spot. They know how to do this. They ran this spot for years on end, and it's like a homecoming for them. They're finally coming home back to their summer kickoff slot, and I think they're going to make this one work.
Yeah, this is a big year for the superheroes. Superman, Thunderbolts, maybe some other ones we're going to be talking about later. This is make or break. Thunderbolts asterisk. Christoper, you don't get an asterisk on your score totals here. This movie tanks. There's no asterisks. This is not a Roger Maris situation.
Maybe that's what it means. It's always meant that, right? It's always been the box office asterisks.
Wow.
We don't
it all
know.
Came back to this. That is a gutsy pick. Christoper, you're a gutsy VP of interns. And now, coming up next, as we're snaking around, Austin, you're on the board once again.
So I'm going to cover my bases with this one because I'm going to choose the other movie that's coming out of Memorial Day weekend. I'm going Mission Impossible.
That's smart. That's really
So I'm
smart.
gonna-
Because you've
yeah,
locked in.
cover
You've
my
locked in that
bases.
weekend now. Like there's
Yeah.
no getting around you.
I think this couldn't possibly perform worse than the last one. I think there is going to be, and I love that last movie. I thought Dead Reckoning 1 was, I think all the Mission Impossible movies are fantastic, but I
And
really
Austin,
love
just
the last
Dead
one.
Reckoning. It's always just been
Oh
Dead
shit,
Reckoning.
yeah, it's just Dead
Dead
Reckoning now.
It's always been that.
Yeah. This one, I think it's going to get a finale bump. I think they're going to lock into, like, as much as I loved it, there are some aspects of the last movie that I think kind of confused some people. Like, I think it was probably a little too long. I think some of the plot was a little too, like, sci-fi mumbo jumbo with the entity. I think they're going to kind of lock in and focus on what people loved about Fallout and Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol. And I think just that last movie really got screwed by its release date, coming out a week and a half before Barbenheimer really kind of like killed it, probably to the tune of like at least $30 million, I'd say. So I'd say this one, I mean, these movies have a ceiling of like Fallout made like what, 230, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think this one maybe could top that, but it's not going to, like, realistically, it's not going to go like super above that. I think even with Top Gun and all those, Cruise is having like a big renaissance with after Maverick, and he's got this new movie with Iñárritu coming out next year. I still think these Mission Impossible movies, it's like you're either going to see them or you're not. And I think if this one's really strong, it could make a run for like 250.
All right. I love that pick. And I'm rooting for you to not have a Sound of Freedom open up right around the same time as Final Reckoning, because that is a huge factor in why Dead Reckoning, and that's the end of the title, Dead Reckoning underperformed, because there was a Sound of Freedom. Have you scouted, Austin? Did you check around that release date? Is there a potential Sound of Freedom on the schedule, or do you think you're in the clear?
Oof. I don't know, man. Those are the only two I saw on it right now. So, but those movies, they're scheduled out 2 weeks at a time. So,
Right.
We're not going to know until the summer starts. So,
Yeah,
fingers
yeah.
crossed.
All right. So, Final Reckoning is off the board. That would have been my pick here.
Sorry, guys. Quickly, I'm just
yes.
looking at the release schedule for the numbers.
Okay.
And May 25th, there's an untitled Warner Brothers event film. So is that Warner Brothers just trying to scare Mission Impossible again? Like saying, "Oh, remember what we did to you last time with Barbie?"
Right.
Is this
right.
a scare tactic? Because I don't know what this movie could be and why it wouldn't have been announced.
Maybe it's
by
more
now.
for Disney, because I don't think, because Tom Cruise is Warner Brothers guy now. He signed a deal with them. All of his future movies now are going to be pretty much through Warner Brothers. So I don't know if they would play around with him like that, but maybe.
That's true. Maybe it is a Disney situation.
Or it's just right before it comes out. Like, we were just kidding. Love you, Tom. Best of luck, Tom. And I did want to just bring that up because there are some untitled films scattered across the schedule. You can't draft an untitled film. So I think unless someone disagrees, I think.
Well, I mean, I just like to, for the record, that's what Moana 2 was until like a few months before. So I think if anyone wants to be that brave soul and go for an untitled event film, I say they're fully allowed to do it. I say it's no harm, no foul.
I second that. I think that would be
Wow.
so fun to see somebody either crash and burn or really sort of run away with it on an untitled film.
All right. Well, listen, I'm not saying I'm the commissioner here or anything like that. I'm not the commish. But if you guys all agree, I mean, Austin, David, are we letting anarchy into this league already, where you could draft untitled event films?
It has to have a date, though, right? Like
It has to have a date.
dated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just like Warner Brothers movie that we don't know about yet, right? Like there has to be actually.
Okay. So how about this? You have to have a date, and it has to open on that date. So if you say, I want untitled Warner Brothers event film scheduled to open July 15th, and then Warner Brothers opens, the Batman Returns prequel or whatever 2 weeks later, you didn't draft that movie. You have to draft the studio, the untitled, and the date, and it has to open on that date. Can we agree on that?
Yeah. And then
like
you
that
can
idea.
always drop that one if you haven't dropped anything else.
That's where you would. Yeah,
Okay. All right. So
that works.
here we go. This is how democracy works.
Pat,
It's
I
all
hope
about
you
podcasting.
then draft this untitled Warner Brothers event film after all of that.
After all that, I am now drafting a very titled film. I am drafting the Fantastic Four.
That's the one.
I'm doing it. Fantastic Four First Steps coming out on July 25th. This is one of those where I think even more than the other superhero movies we're talking about, it could totally bomb, but I think the ceiling on this could be really, really high.
Well,
If-
Pat, the
if
one
this
thing I will
works.
say is I have seen some chatter that this one might be getting moved to the fall. So this one potentially might have to be your drop.
Wow.
You take
Maybe.
that chance. I think, Christopher,
I'm
that's probably
taking
why
it.
you didn't take it, because I
That
feel like
is
this
one of the
one
reasons I haven't
pick.
taken it yet.
And then second would be Thunderbolts. I mean, geez, Captain America is in a bad spot. But yeah, I mean, I think if it stays, that's the Marvel movie to pick.
Yeah, and it's got that sweet release date. It's got the Deadpool and Wolverine July 25th, last movie in July, coming out of Comic-Con. That's what everyone's going to be talking about. Yeah, this is the one where people have been waiting for this. Those other Fantastic Four movies that were pretty much terrible still did well. This brand just has so much juice to it that if this movie is anywhere decent and Disney puts everything behind it, this could be one of the biggest movies of the year.
I think that it might end up being the pick of the draft right there, like at least in terms
I
of
love
value, because I honestly, when I first got the email about being number one, it popped in my head. I think it's going to kill. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to have a great reception. It's going to feel new and different enough where people aren't going to feel like it's recycled MCU, like say Captain America 4 or maybe Thunderbolts. People might get the same connotations. This late July slot is killing. They just murdered it with Deadpool and Wolverine. And I mean, I'm buying into it. I also agree with Chris. There is a sense like it could shift back, which would screw up this draft.
But kill me.
Yeah, that would really suck. But
I'd be finished. I'd be finished as a team, as a person.
well,
So
you have Minecraft,
this can't
so
happen.
you never know. You can always just build more, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But with Fantastic Four, I feel like there is a chance. Now, it probably won't make as much as Deadpool and Wolverine, but there's a chance that it's like it really puts more light and fire into the MCU in terms of like kind of new ideas and movies, like not like sequels or something. And there's a huge opportunity there, I think, for Fantastic Four. I think a huge part of it's going to be how these other MCU and DC movies come in before it. We talked about that a little bit with How to Train Your Dragon. By the way, there are other we talked about Lilo and Stitch too. There are other live action remakes opening this year before How to Train Your Dragon. So Mufasa is going to be way in the rearview mirror, and now we're going to be worrying about Disney movie 1, Lilo and Stitch, and then How to Train Your Dragon. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. This is the one. This is a great storyline for the audience, because if this moves, then you get to see my Spiral live on air, or at least for that episode and the aftermath. But every
I don't
week
think it's going to move.
I think it's got that spot, because Disney is not going to want to give up that Deadpool and Wolverine spot. But yeah, I think this is going to be huge. You got John Malkovich, you got Paul Walter Hauser in this movie. You know, the heavy hitters are in this cast of Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Now, Pat, if you crash and burn spectacularly and Christoper excels, you know where I'm going here.
Oh, it's all on the line. It's all
Okay.
on the line. It's all on the line. You know,
Because I think what you were alluding to is that he would take my chair.
Of course. I mean, I apologize for even alluding to it. I was
You
wanted to be
state it
explicit.
outright.
Yeah. Outright, that is what I was assuming. But you're right. If I crash and burn, a Fantastic Four moves into the fall and my team dies a fiery death and Christoper wins this whole thing, yes, potentially if Christoper goes along with that, it could be Christoper and Clayton hosting the show.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So with that said, again, there's never been a more important fantasy league in history than what we have here. Clayton, you are up next with the 9th pick in the draft.
So this is my crash and burn pick. Not because I think it's going to move, but I think it's a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
And also this pick, I think, helps out David Thompson, because I think there's a movie that David Thompson would like to have and should have. And I'm not going to take that movie. The movie I'm going to take is a movie that's releasing on June 27th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going F1.
Yes.
Well,
And I think that's the adult movie pick. That's the possible. I mean, listen, it's not going to do Maverick money, but it's Maverick director. It's Brad Pitt. It's F1, which is as hot as it's ever been. IMAX screens. I think this thing could be a real money earner that's not in the live action remake superhero genre.
Clayton, the one thing I'll give you is I definitely think Apple is going to push like all of their marketing as possible as they can for this one, because it's like I think the reported budget is like 300 million. The only thing I have reservations about is I feel like F1 is a very international sport. So this has the potential to make a lot of money, but I think this also has the potential where it's like a 30-70 type split where the movie still makes a lot, but only 30% of that comes from domestic grosses.
Mm-hmm.
So according to the numbers, Warner Brothers is distributing this too. So like, yeah. I feel like they're going to push this as well. I get what you mean. Absolutely. I mean, I think this will rack up the numbers, internationally for sure. But I talk to so many people that watch F1. They watch the Netflix, reality series about
the Drive to Survive thing.
Yeah. Now, again, that's passive. That's not plunking down your hard-earned money. But I think this is going to get the dads. I think this is going to get the youngsters. I think this is going to get the teens and the tweens. Not a movie for the rats, though, of course. But maybe they'll get drug along. I just think this is a movie that could really overperform.
Mm-hmm. Clayton, does it give you any fear, though, the way that Apple handles their recent Brad Pitt movie, Wolves, where they pulled it from theaters before it went out? They announced a fake sequel that was never going to happen. It's only on the service. I mean, is there any chance in your mind that Apple pulls this, turns into a streaming series, breaks it up into 7 40-minute episodes? Yeah. I
mean, there's no depths that they couldn't reach in my
Apple Plus
estimation.
TV, yeah.
Yeah, but I just have – that's why this is my crash and burn pick, because I just have faith for literally no reason other than I just have a gut feeling that this is going to be huge.
All right. That is a pick from Clayton. And coming up next with 2 picks in a row, the 10th and 11th pick, David, you are back on the clock.
Yeah, so back-to-back comic book movies, right in line, right in character. So I'll take Captain America 4 here, which is probably my crash and burn pick too, because I'm not confident in this movie at all. I had outside my top 10, coming into the year for sure. there's a lot going against this movie. I think I don't even think the marketing's been that good. They're gonna ramp it up.
I disagree. I think the marketing's been like really stellar with that second trailer and like I think they're trying to like harken back to the Winter Soldier with this one. So I think this one actually, I think the marketing's been really, really good. I thought that second trailer was amazing, and they've kept that momentum going. I think this actually could pop off.
Well, that's great to hear, because for me, kind of really living it day by day, it just kind of feels like that movie that's going to come and go, and there's hopefully it makes enough money. I feel like that's my perspective, at least, and especially now that I have it in this draft. So yeah, Brave New World. I don't love the February release date, the Valentine's Day release date for a Marvel movie. There's been a lot of delays. They had all these reshoots. The quality of the film is what I'm honestly most concerned about, and that really, really affecting its box office performance. But, to kind of give myself a little bit of credit here and some hope, it is an MCU movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming off. It is the next MCU movie coming off of Deadpool and Wolverine, technically. Even though we have had these Sony movies, maybe lessen the Marvel brand a bit. There is some hope. Harrison Ford, Red Hulk. Maybe people are excited to see an angry Hulk again. I'd love to see that.
In the trailer, the woman says, "I didn't know they came in red." So do we think that is enough of a hook? Because traditionally Hulks have been green. In this movie, Hulks will be red. So that is the hook here. And David, I don't know if this means anything for the greater population, but I was at a screening of Nosferatu last night in Brooklyn. They played the Brave New World trailer, and towards the end of it, someone yelled from the back, "A fucking enough with these," and people started clapping. That is what happened just last night in Brooklyn. Again, does that mean anything when it comes to the stacks, to the Plain Billies, to the theaters in a mall? I don't know, but Brooklyn is starting to revolt angrily against these fucking movies. That is what someone yelled out. They just wanted to get to Nosferatu. All right, so that is your first of your two back-to-backs. David, what is your second pick here?
Man, this one's hard. For me, I feel like I'm between 5 different choices here. I'm not sure exactly where to go. Probably gonna go animated. I guess I'll go Elio. Huge risk. High reward potentially. Unfortunately, same date as How to Train Your Dragon. It's gonna be a very interesting weekend. In terms of same demographic, pretty much. I guess younger children would go see Elio over a live action dragon movie. But listen, Pixar in this slot has done great things when it's a sequel, right? But
even Elemental, I mean, that ended up it did leg out. It never made that much every weekend, but throughout the summer, that was really the sneaky hit. So I think Elio is in the same position to potentially pull that off. So I think this is a pretty good pick. And it's not like Marvel where Pixar's coming in this year because they really have something to prove this year to show that they can still make their money's worth and how they even built their empire in the first place. So I think I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, there's not a lot of kids movies there's some kids movies, but there's not a lot of animated movies this summer. It's kind of like how Elemental didn't really have any animated movies either. There's no Despicable Me or Minions or whatever coming out this summer either. That's a pretty solid pick. I could see it doing 160 to 180, similar, maybe even more. Great. Yeah, maybe even more than Elemental.
Yeah, I hope so. And I mean, I think it'll be interesting. Like I said, that opening weekend will be fascinating between those two movies. How to Train Your Dragon's going to open up to more, I assume. So I'm kind of losing out on those potential points. But I do think, like you guys said, the legs of it. And also Disney could really screw me if they're hey, it's going to come out on Disney Plus next week. They are still so inconsistent. I assume they're going to want to give that movie a lot of room to run. They did with Elemental. They obviously did it with Inside Out too. And I guess I am just hoping too, it's 2025 now, that maybe just there's more of this idea that even for kids movies, it's hey, we're all going out to the theater to go check this out, rather than expecting it on Disney Plus, because we are still, I think, in kind of the COVID hangover of the straight to Disney Plus releases. I think there are still so many parents out there that think that, even though we have had the successes of a Moana and an Inside Out, I still get worried about that, especially when it is an original movie that got significantly delayed. There's a epitome too, similar to Cap. I'm a little concerned about the quality of the film and how that would affect it, but It is Pixar. Have faith. Yeah, Disney. Let's do it.
So the aliens in this are red. Did you know that? Did you know that they make them red?
I didn't know that they make them red. Listen,
Mine all the red stock today.
red is a popular color. You know, it's not like the Hulk is orange. I think that wouldn't work. But red is it's a primary color there, so it could work. This could be huge, but I think you're right. Do parents think, okay, you go to the theater for sequels like Inside Out 2, but we wait at home for the stuff we've never heard of like Elio. This is going to be the big test. This is the big test here.
They're more of an event, right? Like
yeah.
Toy Story 5 is going to be an event.
Mm-hmm. Right. So but again, we're still in that part of the draft here where there are still high ceilings for these movies. So Clayton, you're up next, 12th pick in the draft. This is your third pick here. So you'll have three members of your team after this pick. Who do you got?
Man, I don't feel great about it, but I do feel like it just, even if it underperforms, I feel like it will still make enough money to make it worth this slot. And I'm going March 21st. I'm going Snow White.
Wow.
And I know that, listen, it's not going to be as big as some of these other live action movies, but I'm looking at what else is available. Yeah. And I feel like even if this thing makes 90 for me, you know, that's good in this spot.
Yeah. Wow. You know, the dwarves are red in
I didn't know they
movie.
made them red.
Yeah, they make red dwarves. This you would have thought this is a slam dunk because Snow White is Disney. Snow White is maybe one of the most popular characters in Disney. They have her all over the place. You go to Disney World, there's like 15 Snow Whites that you got to push through before you get to your turkey legs.
They're like rats in the subway.
Yes, there are snow
skitter by.
Scurrying. Yep.
Yeah.
So this seems like it should be a slam dunk. They're doing a live action Snow White, but yeah, this is going to be the thing. Our tweets ticks because you got a lot of whatever the hullabaloo about Rachel Zegler. What did she say? Who did she piss off? But does that matter when it's just kids saying, "I want to go see Snow White. Take me to Snow White. I won't stop screaming until you bring me to Snow White." You know, then all that stuff. Who cares what Rachel Zegler said in a tweet 6 months ago?
Yeah. And that's what I'm banking on.
Yeah. This was the 12th pick today. This should have been a top 3 pick. That's the great, like, not that I'm not saying like we should have done that today, but like in reality, a Snow White, go like 2019, a Snow White live action remake should have been maybe the number 1 overall pick. And that's like so crazy how just the fact that it is now, and I'm sitting here like, ooh, at 12. Right? Like, I have no idea what it's going to do. How far they've dropped and how, like, bad juju this movie has right now, where it could be a huge steal, right? Like, maybe we're all underestimating general audiences and families. I don't know. This is a total wild card in my head, and I'm glad you took it here.
Yeah. This is very brave of you, Clayton. I would say at this point, this is the bravest pick that has been made so far. So kudos to Clayton. Guys, I pick now, and I am going with IP. I'm going with a franchise. I'm going with a movie that is bringing characters back from the films and from the streaming shows and from various incarnations of this IP. This is an Endgame situation. This is a Spider-Man 3 Spidey Men situation. I am picking what I think will be the steal of this draft. I'm about to crane kick everyone because I am picking Karate Kid Legends, which opens on May 30th. Guys, I think I just won myself the draft with this pick. I'm so excited.
I love this
honestly.
pick. I think Cobra Kai has, like, even though the quality is not as good as the earlier seasons, people still love that. That is like a hugely popular Netflix show. So having one of the main characters from that, and that first teaser trailer too, I thought that was really good. Yeah, I think this has an opportunity to really, really go big. And I mean, even the last Karate Kid that kind of looked at as a failure still made like 170, 180, and like 350 worldwide total. So like I think this one has like, yeah, it has a high ceiling, but it also has a pretty high floor of what it could potentially make.
Yeah, because Jackie Chan is back. The poster is Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio together.
Who's going to say no to that?
Who's going to say no to that? Well, I'll tell you what, Clayton. I thought for sure you were about to make that pick because I know you're a Cobra Kai guy. You've been saying Cobra Kai for years and years. You watched it back when it was on YouTube Red.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Red, YouTube Red, R.I.P. Red in peace.
Yeah.
You were always on that bandwagon. Was this on your radar? Were you considering Karate Kid Legends in your last pick?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that I think if somebody would have taken Snow White before me, this would have been my pick because I do think this has a very high ceiling, but it also could do middling business. I just think, the Disney powerhouse, it's sort of hard to bet against them. I think at the end of the day, Snow White is still going to make more.
Yep.
But I think that movie, I'm rooting for that movie to make more.
Yeah, I'm excited for this, and looking at the schedule, I think I may have been able to game the schedule where I could see this finishing number 1 for 2 weeks in a row. Fingers crossed. That's what I've got mapped out, beautiful mind style. So I'm excited about this pick. But of course, if Fantastic Four moves to the fall, then I will spiral live on the show, and it'll be fantastic radio. But picking next, Austin, with the 14th pick in the draft, you are on the clock.
Okay. So I'm going to take a play out of David's playbook right now, and I'm going to choose a movie that, I have faith in and I'm confident in, but I'm really just really, really rooting for it to do well. And I'm choosing the untitled Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Kendrick Lamar comedy coming out on July 4th weekend.
Wow.
You do not put a movie like this on a big holiday weekend against like one of the biggest franchises in the world if you are not confident that this is going to be like a smash. And I think the premise to this movie is like wild. And I think the changing taste, because comedy movies are my favorite, and it bums me out so much that we maybe get like 2 a year, and usually only one of them does well. Like, we really just don't get that many comedies anymore. I think this is going to be a big return to big, raunchy, provocative studio comedies. Kendrick Lamar had one of the best years an entertainer could have last year. He's going to be at the Super Bowl halftime show. If they put a commercial for this movie after his halftime show, oh my God, dude, this movie is going to blow up. Like, the pieces are all there for this movie to be just like a viral sensation. Like something that maybe it doesn't open to like 50, but it'll open to like 20 for its like 3-day or 5-day. I forgot if it's coming out on a Wednesday. And then it'll just take the whole summer and leg out to like 100, 120. If it just, people get good word of mouth with that. I mean, I don't know, like at CinemaCon, I wasn't at CinemaCon, but they made like an offhanded comment about this movie, about this movie's going to like light some fireworks up. Just, they know they have something like big with this movie, something that can just go viral and get people talking and make people come back to see comedies. Like, I don't know, maybe that's putting too much stock in this movie that doesn't even have a fucking title, but I have so much confidence in this. I want this movie to do better, more so than probably any other movie coming out next year.
Yeah, I love it. I love that we just had our first untitled pick. And yeah, I mean, this one seems like a solid one because it's not just Untitled Studio. It is a movie that exists and is going to be released with a star and the director. So this
I will say, it is
happen.
going up against an untitled Angel Studios film, which, if anyone remembers a few years ago, this was the exact same release date. They released Sound of Freedom. So he could be going up against another one of those. You just never know.
Well, it could be Sound of Freedom too.
Exactly.
I mean, even you just saying that, that really just shook up the whole draft, because now we're all thinking, does someone have to draft this Untitled Angel Studios pick? movie, because if it's Sound of Freedom 2, that could be the second or third biggest movie of the year.
It's a solid number 7 pick for sure.
Yeah. I love this. I am excited. I'm also rooting. Obviously, I'm rooting against everyone's teams, but I am rooting for the Trey Parker Matt Stone movie to be a huge hit, because we do need comedies back at the box office. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar as the lead. It's
I think,
enticing.
like, people are kind of getting sick of like I think comedy movies kind of died a little bit when people got sick of, like, oh, it's just a formulaic kind of sitcom-ish comedy. There's nothing really here that you couldn't see on TV.
Right.
And, like, I don't know anything about this movie other than just the basic log line of it, but I'm like, this sounds like nuts for like a
Yeah.
comedy movie. Like, you put this group of creative minds together, those three guys with this premise, and that is just like I think this could be a really big, like, surprise, like, word of mouth hit
Yeah.
if it's good, which I'm
Fourth of
hoping.
July, a comedy about slavery reenactments. I mean, that could be the combo that lights up the box office. We are going to find out. Very exciting pick there from David. So up next is I'm sorry, a pick from Austin. So next it's Christoper with back-to-back picks once again.
So I'm really debating here. I think I'm going to stick with horror for these two picks, but there's a lot of options I can choose. But for the first one, I think I'm going to go with, I believe it's coming out in late March. Yeah, late March or April. I'm going to go with Until Dawn. It's a video game IP horror movie. Its directors David F. Sandberg coming back to his roots after getting stuck with DC and doing those two Shazam movies. It's being released by Sony, who I think has a good track record with this kind of stuff. So I think this one has the opportunity to really do some big numbers because you already have a built-in fan base.
I love it.
This is April 25th. It goes up against The Accountant 2.
Which
Interesting.
that's by Amazon MGM, so who knows if that even actually makes it to theaters at some point. So I think this is for what's left. I think this is a pretty solid pick.
I love it. And this is now we're in the muck now. I think we're officially in the muck. We're in the nitty gritty. This is where this draft is going to be won. We're here in the muck. So Christoper, you got one more pick here in the muck. What do you got?
The next pick I'm gonna go with it's the reteaming. It is IP again, but I'm gonna go with 28 years later. That first trailer was like one of the best things I have seen in a long, long time. They're reteaming with Danny Boyle and Alex Garland. Everyone's trying to figure out if Cillian Murphy is like a zombie corpse that's just popping up or if he's still alive. I think this has huge breakout potential. And yeah, that, like I said, that trailer was amazing. I've seen it. I've watched it like 5 times. It is just so good. And every time I've seen it in a reaction to a theater, everyone else has been like, it's got pretty good reactions to that too. I think this is going to be a horror movie that plays throughout the entire summer.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I mean, I'll say it. God damn it. I wanted this movie. I was considering it when I made my Karate Kid pick. This is a great potential value here. This could break out. I mean, we got Oppenheimer potentially popping his head up from a grave in a third movie in a franchise with the original director. This could be a huge $100 million hit for sure. For sure. Wow. All right. So Christoper, he wants that co-hosting spot. He's going for it. Austin, you're back on the clock. You got another pick. Do you have another untitled movie that you want to draft in this spot?
No, but I do have another comedy this summer, and it's IP. It's the Naked Gun movie.
Wow.
Which this one I'm a little like funky. I can't wait for this movie. I am so excited. I've heard this movie is so fucking funny just from, like, test screening, insider rumor stuff, but I'm confident in it. They got the Lonely Island guys are the directors of this. Seth MacFarlane's the producer. It's Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, Paul Walter Hauser. The cast is funny. I think the IP is like, it's good. I mean, I'm a little nervous because the Vacation movie like 10 years ago was kind of a similar thing where it's like it's IP and it's kind of a new cast to it, and and those guys who made Vacation ended up doing Game Night, so it's like, you can't really fault them too much for that. It's a little bit of a toss up, but I got good faith in this. I think especially if that Trey Parker Kendrick Lamar movie does really well, this is Paramount's next comedy for the next month, so that can kind of just directly lead into that. Everybody who sees that movie is going to get a trailer for this. I think if it's good, if it has good buzz, this is also it's August, so these kind of R-rated comedies, I don't know if this is going to be R, but I'm kind of just assuming these things always do well in that like late summer period. Stuff like Sausage Party, We're the Millers, Let's Be Cops. There's like usually one big comedy that comes out in like early to mid August that just legs out all the way to Labor Day. I don't know, like the IP is a little scary. This could be a little creaky. I mean, people like I don't know if someone who's in their 20s, like Naked Gun doesn't really mean that much, but this thing, I think if it's good, it could really just take off and play for the rest of the summer.
Yeah. Um, it really does depend on how they handle the Leslie Nielsen situation because he's not going to be back. But how do they make a nod to Leslie Nielsen, get that generation that grew up loving Frank Drebin? How do they hit them emotionally to make people want to go out there and honor Leslie Nielsen, honor Frank Drebin? I think if they nail that, this could be huge box office.
Yeah, he cannot die in a training exercise the way Will Smith's character did in the sequel to Independence Day.
Yes. You have to treat Frank Drebin with more respect in the sequel. I think he's got to be run over by a steamroller. I think that has to be what happens. We've got to, and you've got to show it. Find a way to show Frank Drebin getting run over by a steamroller, and then a parade, and then a marching band. That has to happen in this movie. And I think if that happens, I think then that generation will come out in droves to see this reboot.
And I mean, I gotta say it too. Nordberg. I mean, what do they do? What do they? How do they respect the legend?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot going on here where the fans of this franchise we demand respect for Frank Drebin and for Nordberg. But I trust the Lonely Island. I think they're going to pull this off. I love that pick. I'll tell you what, I don't know if whether his team is going to win or not, but I want to watch his team because I want to watch this Matt Stone, Trey Parker movie. I can't wait to watch Naked Gun. I love that Austin's betting on comedy at the box office again. If comedy comes back, then Austin's going to win this thing. So coming up next, it's me, and I guess I'm going to pick a comedy as well. I assume that the first one was a comedy. I think it was a comedy. I've never seen it, so I assume the sequel will also be. I'm going with some cheese for rats. I'm picking The Bad Guys Part 2.
Good, I know. Yeah.
I thought
people weren't seeing that.
Yeah, the first one was a sneaky hit. It got itself over 100 million. I assume that kids have only gotten more into it over the last few years with this on the cock. The Bad Guys has been on the cock. It's a universal release, so the kids are picking up the control. They're putting the cock on. They're watching The Bad Guys on Peacock. So I assume that the audience has grown more rabid for this. The rats are feral. The bad guys are back. I think this could be a big August movie. Maria Bakalova is in this. I don't know if she was in the first one. I assume she was. And Sam Rockwell. Mark Maron. I'm betting on Mark Maron. And you never go wrong when you bet on Mark Maron at the box office. Just look at Joker 1 versus Joker Folly of Doo-Doo. Mark Maron doesn't come back. That second movie tanks. So Bad Guys Part 2 coming out in August. That's my pick. And I'm sticking to it. So Clayton, Bad Guys is off the board. You're up now. 20th pick in the draft.
Shocked that this has not been picked yet. Same weekend as F1. I'm going Megan 2.0.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
But that was the next one. I mean, that was the only one to pick next. I mean,
done.
First one, big hit. Second one, it's not going to be number one that weekend, but I think it'll certainly leg out. So yeah, I mean, that was when you were saying horror, I'm gonna pick 2 horror. I was like, oh well, there goes Megan 2.0.
That was like the third horror. That was one of the ones
Yeah.
that I like just couldn't decide.
Yeah, but glad I have it.
Yeah. Great pick. It can't. I think this is an unbombable movie. Will it be the sensation that the first one was? Probably not.
No.
But who knows? But I think that is a movie that for sure will do well.
The only thing I was thinking about is because that is The Weekend after 28 years later, but I feel like those two type of horror audiences are just completely like different. Like one's for the gore hounds and one's going to be for those people who like saw Megan on TikTok again and just like want to go to the movie theater to make it like some sort of thing. So even though they are both horror IP, I think there are two separate audiences. So I do think they can both coexist in the marketplace at the same time and not totally cannibalize each other.
And Allison Williams is back, and it's getting, when is the release? It's in June, so they do want this to be a huge movie. This could be bigger than the first one. That's a really good pick there. So
They want us to be a
David, you're up now with 2 more picks in a row, back to backs for David.
Oh, David, we can't hear you, sir.
We can't hear you, my friend.
Sorry. I
There
am
we
now
go.
unmuted. My 2 picks are going to be kind of similar. The first one's going to be the Smurfs movie.
Yep.
I think could be some pretty good value here.
Mhm.
You know, one of those movies. I'm not going to see it or anything like that, but I think plenty of kids might. I'm not too sure, but it seems like one of those movies. Like obviously the IP is there. Not sure the like current day interest, but you know we'll see. And then just to round out with my second pick here, I think I'm gonna go Dog Man, another kids movie. I'm kind of racking these kids movies up. That's kind of going to be the heart and soul of my team. It turns out. Comes out soon. I think this movie. I think it's
January 17th or something.
Yeah, I think it's the end of this month, and I think it has plenty of potential to be a family-friendly film that'll plenty of kids go see in theaters. And so the Smurfs and Dog Man is what I'm relying on this year. It turns out.
Yeah, the Smurfs are such an interesting franchise because, you know, they had that 2011 movie, did giant business, did 142 million. Second movie came out 2 years later, did half of that. There is a Smurfs The Lost Village that came out in 2017 and only did 45 domestic. I feel like that's a totally forgotten movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know, is this new Smurfs movie a continuation of that? Is it go back to the NPH days? I mean, I don't think any of us know when we're all going to find out together.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea.
And Dogman's a great pick. It's opening the end of January, and rats are going to be starving by that point. So that's a potential.
Seems like a high floor kind of.
Yeah,
you know,
and
maybe not.
my comp for that was Captain Underpants, which
Yes.
is a similar IP that I think did better than I even remembered when we looked that up, because that's for very, very young kids.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So Clayton, you are back on the clock for your next pick, 22nd pick in this draft.
Okay, so with this one, I am going to go with a movie that, man, also could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
June 6th, Ballerina.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Just because now we know John Wick is in it. I mean, trusting Lionsgate, you can't do it. I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm trusting Apple TV and Lionsgate in this, so I'm really going against all of what my gut is saying. But I just think this one is the highest value pick left out of everything, and so that's my first of these two. And then my second one,
You only
what
get
are you
one
gonna-
pick.
oh, I thought you said I got back to back. No.
No. You're a one pick. You're a one pick guy. You didn't remember. You have to be first or fifth to get a 2-pick situation.
I'm the one pick guy.
You're a
Okay.
one pick guy. I'm
right.
also a one pick guy, and I'm up next. All right, guys, we are. I thought we were in the muck before, but we are really in the muck now. And I am gonna go with. I'm going with some August muck.
Here we go.
I'm going with Lindsay Lohan
Yeah.
is about to be
Oh.
drafted. And Academy Award winner Jamie Lee Curtis is about to be drafted. I'm going Freakier Friday.
I love it.
Nice.
It's IP, and I think kids are going to be into it because they've probably been watching this movie on Disney Plus, and I think looky-loos are going to be interested because it's like, all right, Lindsay Lohan, what's the deal here? I think the ceiling is probably pretty low, but I do think this is a movie that if it hits, could do 70 million in August. So I'm going Freakier Friday, which is also a movie that could completely bomb and could for sure be punted to streaming by the time it comes out. This is a full on risk for streaming. It's way out in August. It could be terrible. I don't think Lindsay Lohan has any protections in her contract that she can't be sent to streaming. So I'm going with it. I got to have Lindsay Lohan on my team. When am I going to have that chance again? So Freakier Friday is my pick.
I think that pick has a lot of nostalgia play, especially like for someone like specifically my age, where like grew up with Freaky Friday, loved that movie as a kid, and now it's like, sure, I'll go see that on opening weekend. Like that's going to be a lot of fun. Marketing is going to be really essential for that. Like just getting people to know that's coming out and that's going to be in theaters, because I think it's going to present like a streaming movie. I feel like if you watch a trailer for it, it's going to be like, oh, Lindsay Lohan's been on a lot of Netflix movies recently. That must be streaming somewhere, right? And it's going to be in theaters. And that's going to be the challenge. It's like actually getting people to go out to the theater and watch it, not stream it 21 days later on Disney Plus. Because I feel like a lot of other people that I know that might have loved Freaky Friday would rather do the latter and just sit on their couch and watch it at home a couple weeks later.
Yeah, this could definitely be disenchanted for sure.
Here's what you got to do. Is we saw the success. I mean, Wicked was going to be a success no matter what, but you see the press presence of Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and those two absolute nutters went out there and just were their wacky selves. And if you've got Lindsay Lohan and you've got Jamie Lee Curtis, who is an underrated nutter, she is sort of Coco Bananas. I think you let them run free. Now, I know this is a kid's movie, but still, I mean, I think you put them on all the chat shows. They're eating the wings together. Like, imagine that.
Same wing.
I mean, it could
I'd
kill
watch it.
Jamie Lee Curtis because we know she has gut issues because she does the Activia commercials. But maybe that Activia works. Who knows? I don't trust it.
Dip the wings in the Activia on the show.
I think she will. I think she should. And so I think that is the secret weapon of this, is that if they're out and everywhere and they go, constantly viral the way that those two loonies did, I think that could be big for this movie.
Yeah. They need to have them the way Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, they were like grasping each other's pinkies. Get them on TV shows. Have Lindsay Lohan grabbing toes. She should be grabbing Jamie Lee Curtis's toes on the chat shows.
Do a full-on blood pact. Cut those hands open.
Yeah. I would love to see that happen because I think if that happens, then this movie could be the one that wins it for me.
Do that on Lad Bible or whatever.
Yes. So I picked Freakier Friday. Austin, you now have the 24th pick in the box office draft.
So I'm going to go with the movie I genuinely think is going to break out. I think it's pretty high profile. I'm going with Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's Sinners.
Yeah.
I think this movie, the trailer looks phenomenal. It looks so freaking good in IMAX. And if they're putting it out on Easter weekend, like they know this movie's going to be big. And like the production history behind this movie, they're doing a thing where it's like Ryan Coogler owns the rights to this movie. And like they relinquished a lot to just make this movie. So like I just got to assume this movie's going to be like the script is really good. I think they got a lot of faith in Ryan Coogler as a director. I mean, obviously, he's a marquee name. Like when he puts out a movie, I think people pay attention. I think his track record of Fruitvale Station, Creed, obviously Black Panther 1 and 2, like just reteaming with Michael B. Jordan too. I mean, that feels like such a prime combo. And putting it out on a holiday weekend, And like I've checked the calendar. This is kind of April's got kind of a lull in it. I mean, Minecraft is going to be big, but there's not really anything for like adults after that, especially like the weekend or two before. There's not really like anything big. I think there's going to be room for a big adult like horror film with a big star and a marquee director that just looks like fun. Like it just looks like a good night out to go see it. And I think if he gives spectacle, like I think this thing is going to open big and then play for at least until like maybe Memorial Day, like just a month or two after. Like this thing, I think I could see it making like maybe I'm going a little crazy, but like opening to like 38, 40, and then
Wow.
legging to like 110, 120 maybe, or like low hundreds. Like I think Warner Brothers has a lot of faith in this movie. They know like this is good. And it literally just needs to be good. If it's good, it's gonna make money.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a definitely a high reward one. If this opens at 38, and then Naked Gun fans know that Nordberg's honored the right way in that film, and that opens huge, Austin could be running away with this. This is a great pick. Was anyone else circling Sinners as one of their
I
upcoming
definitely
ones?
was, because
I was.
this is the exact type of movie that is in Warner Brothers wheelhouse, where it's like not an event film onto itself, but through their like usually pretty good marketing, they can make this into a must-see event film that plays like throughout, like towards exactly what he said, like Memorial Day or something. And just even though it's not going to be the number one every week, sneakily is like making like 10, 15, like just legging out through like toward into the early summer.
And I think you have two well-liked talents here coming out of the franchise machine to do something new and interesting. And I think that's a storyline that people will root for. And I know storylines don't necessarily get people to buy movie tickets, but I think the star is well-liked, the director is well-liked, and they want to see what they have together again. So I do think, this is really high reward.
All right. Well, Christoper, you're a 2-pick guy. You got back-to-back picks coming up now. So let's hear him. Christoper has got
David, the backbone of his team was all about the rats. I guess for me, I'm gonna make it about horror. I'm gonna do 2 IP movies that are follow-up from super well-liked directors. So first, I'm gonna start off with Wolfman. The Invisible Man was already a box office hit, but it would have been even a bigger hit if it was not kneecapped from COVID. So I'm gonna do that. And then for my second pick, I'm gonna go with The Monkey, the follow-up from Osgood Perkins, the director behind Longlegs, re-teaming with Neon. I think Neon saw what they could do with Longlegs, and they're gonna find some really good way to market this one too. And I think this one also has breakout potential, just like Longlegs did.
Those are both on my radar coming up. So I mean, you are all in on people being terrified in 2025.
Horror is the most sustainable type of movie you can put out in the marketplace. So why bet against it now?
Yeah. Wolfman could be. I mean, you're right. Invisible Man and go back in the archives when COVID was starting. Clayton and I were there on the front lines covering what happened to Invisible Man. That movie had a lot of money it still would have made if it wasn't for COVID. One of the great tragedies of that time is Wolfman didn't get itself to $100 million. I'm sorry, Invisible Man. It does depend though. There's not a star here in Wolfman. That is potentially the problem. Is that there's not a big recognizable star.
Charlie from Girls is not a star to you.
Listen, I respect Charlie from Girls. Don't ever let anyone say I don't respect Charlie from Girls. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out what he means to audiences. But yeah, this is a good pick. I mean, Wolfman will do well. I'd be shocked if it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now Austin. I mean, you're coming in hot now because that Sinners pick, I think everyone here loves that pick. So you're coming in hot. What do you have? You are making now the 27th pick in the draft here.
I was gonna go The Monkey, but now I'm gonna go Paddington 3.
Wow.
I think they got it out on a holiday weekend. It's coming up on President's Day weekend. I know the second one kind of bombed a little bit. The first one made like 80, I think, and the second one made like 40, 45. But the second
Yeah,
one
it was
was,
domestic because it like kept the same
yeah.
exact overseas. Basically, it was where domestic where it really faltered.
I think that second movie, if I remember correctly, it was dumped by the Weinstein Company because all the stuff came out like right before the movie came out. I think Warner Brothers or Sony, another studio picked it up like really last second and kind of fumbled it a little bit. They didn't really know how to market it. They didn't really have a strategy. I think this one, it's in a much better position. I think people have seen the second one more and it's become more of a, you know, classic for families now. I think everything's setting it up. I mean, there's not really a huge star. There's no Nicole Kidman or Hugh Grant in this one. I think it's Antonio Banderas, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is the main
Mhm.
human guy in this one. But maybe it won't make quite what the first one did. But I could see this making like 70, 75, maybe even a little bit more if it's really good.
Um, that is a good pick. That feels like the last, uh, not sure thing, but we've been in the muck. I gotta say now we might be in the dregs. That's where we might be here. Is I might be making the first pick officially in the dregs of what's left. Um, so now the question for me is, do I pick something that seems like it could be solid? I am stalling because I'm really stumped here on which of these I'm going to pick. But I think I'm going to go with the Kiwi Kwan star Love Hurts. I'm picking Love Hurts.
Nice.
I'm going full reunion here because I got Jamie Lee Curtis on my team, and now I got Oscar winner Kiwi Kwan. So I'm doing it. This is probably going to bomb, but I've been seeing a lot of trailers for it, so it does feel like there's at least going to be an effort to get people to know about this movie. So, yeah, I'm going Love Hurts, which opens, it's a February, it's like a Valentine's release day, Universal, February 7th. There's a solid chance this will be out for 10 days and go right on the cock. But that's where we're at now. We're in the dregs, and I'm picking Love Hurts.
I don't know how that movie's going to perform, but I am excited for it. I think the trailer actually looks really good.
I think it might have been you on this show, or maybe it was Jeff Bach, Exhibit Relations Co., but we did have a guest recently that was really standing up for Love Hurts.
Mhm.
Probably was Jeff Bach on the
I think it was
winter
Jeff.
preview episode. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if this bombs and costs me my season and the co-hosting spot, that's on Jeff. We'll say it. We'll say it right
I
now.
agree. It is on Jeff.
All right, so Love Hurts. I'm going there. Or immediately regretting it. I hate this pick. So I'll be the first one to say I hate the pick I just made. But we got to live with it. Clayton, you're up next. Was Love Hurts on your radar?
No, I mean
Okay.
I knew it existed, but I would never pick it in a million
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So January is in play, correct?
It is in
January
play.
10th.
Just anything opening this minute is in play. Yeah.
January 10th,
Yeah.
Den of Thieves 2 Pantera.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have faith in Jerry. I think that he's going to make a certain amount of money. This is a sequel to a well-liked film. I mean, talk about a movie that has gained a following. You were talking about Paddington 2. You know, Den of Thieves is a movie that's a rare sort of like cable rewatch movie for people. And I
Mhm.
think there's some excitement for this going into it. So I think this is like a solid pick for as late as we are.
Yeah. No, that's a good pick. That's what I was gonna go, and then I just shit the bed. I mean,
You know any Gerard Butler B level action movie is going to open to 10, 15 million and leg out to like 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Like, locked in at least. So yeah, I think that for what we have left, I think that's definitely a really solid pick.
Yeah, that is a good pick. I think we could establish right here. It's safe to say that the first movie that will be released this year will be Love Hurts. It will be the movie I just picked. I think that is a safe bet. If you're betting what movie will get released first, it'll be, and I mean
You mean
released,
dropped? Oh, you're gonna drop it.
dropped. I mean dropped,
Oh,
not
oh.
released in the movie schedule. I mean dropped off a team. That's a solid
interesting.
bet. That's a solid bet.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so here we go. David, you're on the board with back-to-back picks. These will round out your team. The final 2 picks for David Thompson of thedirect.com and Cinema Spending.
Yes, thank you. Rounding out my team, number 1 is going to be Final Destination Bloodlines.
Damn it.
I actually like this
mine.
pick. I think it's slipped a little bit. I think this movie could actually be semi-hit. Could open like decently and do decent at the box office. I like when it releases. It's going to be when a lot of people are going to see movies in the month of May, but it doesn't really go head-to-head against anything too tricky. But obviously, like surrounding it is going to be a lot of big movies. So we'll see, you know, keeping an eye on like the number 1 of the week and stuff like that. But I think this is the 6th Final Destination movie.
It's the 5th. And honestly,
Right.
I was thinking about picking that because I looked at those movies, those first 4 have solidly been doing like 40 to 50 million. And if this could be a Saw X situation where this one comes back, gets like stellar reviews compared to all the other ones because it's finally the people that grew up with these movies reviewing it, not the people when it's like a brand new franchise, and that can also give it a bump. So yeah, honestly, out of all the movies that are left, I think that's probably one of the best picks anyone could have chosen.
I mean, it's the legacy play, right? Where it's just something that you know, the last movie didn't come out since like 2011 or something.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
you know,
2011.
that makes it a question mark. Another question mark is gonna be my final pick of the day, and that's gonna be Mickey 17, the movie that can't find a release date, but I think it might have. You know, this is Robert Pattinson. This is based on a novel. It's deep sci-fi. I'm excited to see the movie. Like, this is something where it's like back to, you know, the sandwich of passion. Can't wait for Superman. I'm really excited for Mickey 17. I think the movie's going to be really good. The delays have been really concerning, and box office wise, I'm really not sure. But for a 7th rounder, I like it. It's something that I'm a little bit passionate about, and I'm going to be rooting for it when it opens.
And in all the marketing they get to put from the director of Parasite. Like, this is
Right.
his follow-up. So that's also a big thing that this movie has going for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's going to get IMAX screens, right? That was like why they originally said they moved it. They wanted to get some IMAX screens. Who knows if it will, but
it's supposed to, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it you know, this is a movie that probably doesn't have a high ceiling, but it's going to get enough promotion that it would be shocked if it cries macho, for example. This would be tough to cry macho.
Flies to the moon.
Flies to the moon. Of course, in respect to Clint, we've retired Cry Macho. Flies to the moon. Okay, so then David's team is rounded out. We'll recap everyone's teams when we're done in a bit. But Clayton, you are now making your final pick of the draft.
Here's a movie that could. Well, okay, I'm not going to pick that one.
Okay.
Because it's too close to the cutoff.
Okay.
Here is a movie that I think is not been picked, and I'm going to go with another action sequel. I'm going with The Accountant 2 in April 25th, only because Affleck. Yeah.
It is an Affleck movie. I think the thing scaring us off about that movie is just, does MGM actually put it in theaters, or is it a straight to Amazon situation? But if they put it in theaters, the first one did well. I think the first one did maybe 60 million domestic. Is that am I making that up?
I think it did more than that. Let me see.
I thought it did like 80 or something.
Yeah. It's a movie that came up just in conversation a few days ago. My father-in-law asked me, have you ever seen that movie, The Accountant? Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, it's good. And he said, yeah, it's good. And that was, you know, a very meaningful conversation that we had.
I was in the car for that one too.
You were
on our way to a hockey game.
Yes. And so you remember that. That was an important conversation for the three of us.
And it made 86. So you were right.
Yeah.
It was 86.
Wow.
That first accountant movie too is like a perennial TNT classic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that thing is up there with like Mark Wahlberg's Shooter as just something that is on like a constant cable rotation. Every dad you know has probably seen it. And yeah, it legged out. That first accountant movie, I think, didn't it open to like 20, like 21, and it legged out to like 86. Like people like that movie.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like my team is full of dad movies. F1, Den of Thieves,
Mhm.
Accountant 2.
Yeah. All right, we'll go. We're gonna recap everyone's team, and we're all making our final picks here. It is time for my final pick, and I'm going with an action sequel. I'm going with a movie from the Love Hurts family. Here, I'm going with Nobody 2. And what I like about this movie is the first one did well. I think it got to 28, 29 million domestic. But it was still very much a COVID-y movie. It came out spring 21. People were not vax and wax. People were not allowed in theaters. Theaters were just starting to open. So it didn't get a real full run. I think people probably have caught up and liked this since on streaming. And Bob Odenkirk co-wrote this movie.
Mhm.
So whether that means anything in the box office, we'll see. But it does make me confident that this will be as good or better than the first movie because guy wrote SNL, Prime Years, Get a Life. This guy putting his pen to paper makes me excited. So Bob Odenkirk, Nobody 2. That's rounded out my team. So now, Austin, your final pick of the 2025 box office draft.
I'm gonna go with. There's two movies I'm jumping between, and they're pretty similar, but I'm gonna go with Companion.
Mhm.
And I was debating between either that
Yep.
or Jack Quaid's other movie, Novocaine,
Yeah.
because I saw Nosferatu the other night, and these two trailers played like back to back, and they both got like a really good reaction. Like people were laughing at the Novocaine trailer, and people like just you could feel like the energy was really buzzing with that Companion trailer. I think people love Barbarian. Barbarian was a leggy hit. Like it
Mm-hmm.
opened to like 10, and I think it made like 40. That's insane for like a horror movie. Like people had discovered that movie on streaming too. I think marketing it as the same kind of vibe as Barbarian 2, where it's like you don't really know what's going on. That trailer is like beyond vague. Like it doesn't really say anything about the movie. It kind of wants you to go in like it's going to be a surprise movie, like there's twists and turns. You don't really know what's going to happen with it. I think maybe, it's not going to open huge, but it's also going to be an IMAX too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're punting this one, or this one's kind of bumped around the calendar too, but they feel like putting this in IMAX feels like a show of confidence for a movie like this, which does kind of look like a smaller horror film. It's not super huge that you need to see it on like a big screen. But I think, and the two stars of it, it's Jack Quaid and it's the girl from Heretic that I can't think of her name right now. But, those are up and coming stars. Those are the kind of people want to see in the movies like this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that trailer's not funny, but there's a certain like playfulness to it that gets more casual people in it too, along with like the A24 crowd who wants to see like a weird, twisty, like horror movie with like, super crazy editing and, plot twists and all that kind of stuff in it. People want to see something that's, maybe a little bit more tongue in cheek with it too. And that's what this feels like it is, which is kind of like what Barbarian felt like. Barbarian had a really good, I think Barbarian's sense of humor is what propelled that movie to such like a bigger height than it was ever intended to be. Like, I don't know, like I think the word of mouth from Barbarian was that this is way funnier than you would think, and this is so surprising and shocking, and go in not knowing anything about it and just enjoy like the ride. And I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting from the trailer from Companion. And I think
Wow.
it's going to perform. I don't know. I think the IMAX screens and just the fact that people know the produce, like I can't think of, I know it's not the same guy who's directing it, but it's the same team behind it. And I think people take those names and, associate with something bigger. Like I could see this doing
Right.
bigger than Barbarian.
Wow.
I think in horror especially, people look at who's producing something.
Yeah, and studios, from the studio who brought you, from the person who brought you, that does play for sure. I like this pick. This was definitely one I was considering as the movie I would pick up when I eventually do drop Love Hurts. So sorry to see that it will not be a free agent. So solid pick to close out Austin's team. We have got one final pick left to close out this entire draft. It's the VP of Interns with the 35th and final pick in the 2025 BO Boys Box Office Fantasy League Draft. Christoper, you are on the clock. What is the final movie that we will draft?
It's been a consistent theme. I'm going to go with horror, and then I'm going to go with the Legacy sequel. I'm taking I Know What You Did Last Summer. Jennifer Love Hewitt's coming back. They have Madeline Klein, who I know she's like Netflix famous, but I think she could get the people of my generation coming out. She's the star of Outer Banks. It's in July, and there's no other real horror movies coming after it, so it'll be able to play throughout all of August. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Legacy sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a smart pick, and I love that this is the movie that closed out the draft. It feels like we're going out with a big star. Whether this movie is going to be a big hit or not, who knows? But I like that our draft ends on recognizable IP. Yeah, I mean, Clayton, this is me and you, our generation, I would say, of teen horror. We were teens in our teen prime when this movie came out. I think it's fair to say we're both going to see this in the movie theater.
Oh, 1,000. I mean, the fact that there's Final Destination Bloodlines and this coming out is, I mean, we're eating good.
We're eating good up there, for sure. All right, so guys, we have completed the draft. So now I am going to read through everyone's team right now. So I'll start with David Thompson in the direct. Your team consists of Superman, Legacy, Captain America, Brave New World, Ilio, the Smurfs movie, Dogman, and Mickey 17.
And Final Destination. Don't forget.
And Final Destination Bloodlines. How you feel about your team?
I feel pretty good. I think I got a couple of steals. I'm just really banking on a lot of kids going to the movie theater this year, it turns out. Hopefully even to see Superman. Maybe not Final Destination, but other than that, yeah, definitely banking on it. And I am excited just that I do get started off here pretty quick with Dogman in a few weeks. So that'll be exciting. Give me a little stake going into that weekend, something to pay attention to.
Yes. And I love that you did get 2 superhero movies on your team. It's on brand, had to be done. You wouldn't be able to go back to the office of the direct without at least 2 superhero movies on the team.
Exactly. Couldn't pick the dinos. Just couldn't do it.
Well, speak of the dinos, let's go to our next team. Clayton, your team consists of Jurassic World, Rebirth, F1, Disney's Snow White, Megan 2.0, Ballerina, and Den of Thieves 2 Pantera, and The Accountant 2. So, yeah, your team is definitely dad heavy, and I would include Snow White in that because there's dads who are going to have to take their daughters, and there's dads who are already mad about Rachel Zegler. So the dads will be talking about your team. What do you think about how your team stands right now?
I'm pretty confident in my team. I think it's pretty strong. I think, if some of these sequels do, if The Accountant can do 60, I'll be happy with that. I think, I really need these dinos to be big, and I need these race cars to be big. And I think if the race cars and the dinos can be big, then I could run away with this thing. But it's a question mark. It's going to be exciting, but I think I'm really happy with what I got.
Love it. So gunning for Clayton's co-hosting spot, of course, is VP of Interns.
Well, also gunning for your spot as well.
Sure.
And you are also a co-host, so remember that. But we are co-hosts.
But he's been gunning for your spot longer than he's been gunning for my spot. He's been gunning for your spot for it's going on almost 2 years now. So, but yes,
he knows
he's
not
now.
to he knows not to mention how he's gunning for your spot until it's too late.
That could be true. That could be true. So we're going to find out this season. A lot is on the line. Christoper, your team consists of How to Train Your Dragon, Thunderbolts, Asterisk, Until Dawn, 28 Years Later, Wolfman, The Monkey, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. So a lot of horror on this team. Christoper, how you feeling about your fantasy league team?
I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like it's definitely a very safe team. I didn't take a lot of risks with this one, but I think my two heavy hitters right off the bat, I think they're going to perform. And then, yeah, I think all of these horror movies have like relatively the same floor, but who really knows where any of the ceilings are with them? So that's where I'm thinking. I think most of my movies have like true breakout potential. So I'm hoping for some of that to happen throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah. This. He's got a shot at getting someone's co-hosting spot. So we'll see. Austin, your team consists of Lilo and Stitch, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning,
Let's go on.
Untitled Trey Parker and Matt Stone 4th of July weekend film, The Naked Gun, Sinners, Paddington 3, Paddington in Peru, and Companion. So, Austin, sitting pretty with that team. How are you feeling about your team?
Oh, I'm happy that Memorial Day weekend is pretty much sewn up for me, no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little nervous. I mean, comedy has had its ups and downs these last couple of years. There's been a few hits, but last year the highest grossing or 2023, the highest grossing comedy was Anyone But You, and that made like 90. Like it's a little nervous, but I'm gonna assume that these movies are really good and they're gonna be good word of mouth hits. And I feel pretty good about the other ones too. I mean, I think Sinners and Paddington and Companion, even if they're not like the biggest movies ever, I think those will rack up like pretty solid numbers.
Yeah. I mean that I love that you went all in on comedy. I'm rooting for the movies on your team. And I think this is the slate I'm most looking forward to watching. So
I agree with that statement.
yeah.
Yeah.
So rounding out the league, I'm not the commish. Don't call me the commish. You know, I know you probably want to call me the commish, but you don't have to. So rounding out the league is my team, Team Pat, a Minecraft movie, Fantastic Four, First Steps, Karate Kid, Legends, The Bad Guys, Part 2, Freakier Friday. I gotta say it, Love Hurts, still officially on my team, and Nobody 2. So that is my team. The Love Hurts pick, of course.
Hurts.
I regret that pick. It hurts. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just Jeff Bach. He just got my ear. I love him, but sometimes he comes in with the hype, and he could really influence you.
It's the Flash all over again.
Yeah, this is the Flash all over again. But currently, Love Hurts is still on my team. Otherwise, I'm excited about my team. I love my Minecraft pick. I think this could be the biggest movie of this period. This could be gigantic. It's Super Mario. That's what I'm going with.
The Bad Guys 2, I think, was your best pick. I think that's gonna be a really big hit. At least, especially like where you took it.
Yeah. And Karate Kid's Legends. I mean, YouTube Red coming to the big screen. Jackie Chan getting in there. This is the one. I'm excited. I am so excited for this league. So we're gonna get the teams up on our social media, so that everyone could see it. We'll get all that. We're gonna do updates when these movies come out. I can't wait to have everyone on. When movies get moved out of the schedule and people, team owners here start freaking out, we got to get that on the air because those freakouts are going to be legendary. And I trash talk. I want this to be just the biggest podcasting story of the year. Is this box office fantasy league, and I think it's going to be that. So yeah, very exciting. Any other last words anyone wants to have about their teams or about this league? Any trash talking? Does anyone want to tell anyone to go fuck themselves? I mean, we're about to start a fantasy league. Does anyone want to scream at anyone before we get started?
I just say keep the chairs warm for me, guys, because you never know. You never know by the end of August.
Wow.
How's it feel, Pat? How's it feel?
Here's an interesting thing, not to parse language, but he said keep the chairs warm. Could Christoper be coming in looking for a complete coup where he's kicking everyone out and bringing in a whole new regime? I don't think that's off the table here.
The BO boy, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, depending on how things break with Thunderbolts asterisk, it could be a full Christoper takeover of this show. That is what is on the line here. So this was a fantastic draft. Again, we'll get all the teams up and everything on social media. And before we go, just one last thing that we've got to do on this episode is we got an email. We got a great email a few days ago, everyone, from a woman, Priscilla, who, of course, her namesake movie Priscilla did very well in theaters a few years ago. So good on her of having the name of that movie. Priscilla wrote us, and she wrote a beautiful email about her husband, Caleb, who is a longtime listener of the show, and apparently he's a great father. And she describes her husband as a smart, creative, humble, quiet man who loves puzzles, Diet Coke, movies, and your podcast. And she tells us that as of today, January 1st, 2025, they will have been married for 3 years. They got married on New Year's. And again, Caleb sounds like an incredible person. Or he's a monster. Who knows? We don't know. But according to his wife,
No, I don't think
sounds
he
like a great
is.
guy. He's probably not a monster. And she asked if we could give him a shout out. So I think we've already accomplished that. Oh, well, we could all give him a shout out. Hey, Caleb.
Hi,
Hey,
Caleb.
Caleb.
Hey, Caleb.
Hey, Caleb. And I think we want to go one better. I think we should all wish a very happy anniversary to Caleb and Priscilla. So I will start. Happy anniversary, Caleb and Priscilla.
Happy
Happy
anniversary,
anniversary.
Caleb.
Happy anniversary, Caleb and Priscilla.
Wow.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Could you imagine being Caleb and Priscilla right now? First of all, Caleb had no idea this was coming. So he's listening at the end of an hour and 40-minute broadcast of a fantasy league draft. Didn't know this was coming. He just heard a shout out and a happy anniversary.
I want to hear what Caleb thinks about the draft. I want to hear who he thinks is going to win. That's what I want to hear next episode in the BO Boys. That's what I want to hear.
I love it. So he gets a shout out, he gets a happy anniversary, and he's getting a call to action, which is Caleb, send us an email, theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. We want to hear your analysis of this draft. David, thedirect.com, cannot wait to hear your breakdown of this draft. So Caleb, you get a shout out, you get a happy anniversary, and now you got to email us your analysis of this draft. But thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Caleb, for listening. Happy anniversary to both of you. And I think, man, that's all the business. Emails theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Of course, follow us on social media at theboboyspod, on TikTok, on Instagram. Christoper, VP of Interns. What exciting development should we be looking for on the BO Boys social media in this next year?
Well, definitely this new fantasy league. There will be constant updates throughout the year every time a new movie releases. So keep you guys all up to date on that. And then who knows what other fun type of stuff we have planned for the rest of this year now.
Very exciting. I can't wait. I know Christoper knows. When he says who knows, that means he knows. But the rest of us don't know yet. So follow us at the BO Boys Pod on social media. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Austin, for joining us once again.
Yes.
I'm so excited that now you will be a ongoing storyline on the show as part of this draft. Is there anything that you want to plug to the Wanna Be O Boys, Wanna Be O Girls, Wanna Be O People? Any new
People.
movies coming out? Of course, you're the co-star of Cabrini, the star of Slap Straight. So any big projects that you want to tease to the listeners?
Nothing I could quite say yet, but stuff that'll be coming up in the meantime. Just keep watching Slap Straight, give it a good review if you like it. Yeah, and thanks for having me on, guys. I can't wait to see what happens this year. This was a ton of fun.
Very exciting. Thank you, Austin and David. Anything you want to plug on the coming up on the direct or on cinema spending? What could we look for?
Yeah, coming up on the direct pod this upcoming Monday, so like 5 days from now, we're doing our direct awards, which was a really fun annual episode we do, like discussing this is about 2025 today. That pod's kind of about 2024 and all the characters and movies and what happened. Obviously, comic book movies, huge talking point on the direct podcast, all the universes you love. So that's coming up. One other like quick thing is like we do a hype draft, and it kind of reminded me of this. We'll look back at that. It's like part box office, like how well performed, but then also like how it performed, like audience reactions and stuff. And that's always a lot of fun coming up in January to like discuss what's happening, if Captain America even gets picked, and then look back at all those shitty Sony Marvel movies that made me come on to the BO Boys podcast and rage for just like 30 minutes. And I appreciate that space, guys, that one time. That was a lot of fun.
You got it. And listen, at some point we'll cash in by putting out the best of David Thompson on the BO Boys, and your anti-Sony Spideyverse rage rants will be a big part of that. That'll make us a lot of money.
Yeah, David, we always hold space for your Sony Marvel rants.
I appreciate that. I hope they're gone. I hope they're done. I hope they can just leave me alone and let me just relax.
That's not what a movie studio wants to hear, is when people say, I wish they would just leave me alone. I wish they would leave me alone. And Clayton, you're going to be jumping out to an early lead in our draft, because this Friday it's going to be Den of Thieves 2 Pantera comes out. So let's just end this with Clayton, do you have a opening weekend prediction for Den of Thieves? Oh, wait,
Well,
no,
isn't
that's
it-
next weekend.
Yeah,
oh, my
it's
God,
next
that's
weekend.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Hold on.
next weekend. Well, I'm jumping the gun. That's right. This Friday, January 3rd, pretty much nothing comes out. Nothing comes out that we have to worry about.
Of
Okay, so
consequence.
follow us on YouTube, watch the YouTube show, and that is it. I got nothing left, guys. What a day. I am done.
I finished, and
Great.
Pat, you said it all. There's nothing left to be
Nice.
said,
Nothing. I'm out of here, and that's it.
except for until next time.
We'll smell you at the box office.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.